bringing in the moody nighttime music. It's an After Dark podcast. This is me reading stuff. I'm Robin O'Neill, your trusty friend who likes to keep you company when, well, as often as possible. I don't know what the when was for. I don't know what I'm about to say, but I'm glad to be back. I did have that flu or cold for over a month. Okay? Can you imagine how annoyed I was? I didn't even care that I felt sick. I was just mad at towards the last week. And one day I was even being mean to Damien. And that was uncool, but he just kind of laughed it off. It's kind of hard to even explain what I did exactly, but we were on a couch. He was talking, telling a story. I decided apparently that I wanted to say something, even though he wasn't done with his story. But instead of, there's a lot of ways one can do that, right? That's called interruption. But here's how I did it. I just started to talk. I go, oh, and blah, 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 blah. And then he just continued. This was a cool move on his part, looking back. He just kept talking. So he's in the middle of his conversation. I guess he didn't even raise his voice, but he figured, I'm just going to keep talking, I guess. But here's what I did. So I'm trying to say my thing. Hey, blah, blah, blah. And then I see that he's not stopping. So I go, and I'm not going to do it as loud as I did, but I did it kind of aggressively. I went, hey. and then I tried to say my thing again. And he just looked at me like, what? And we didn't get in a fight or anything, but I can imagine his thoughts. Anyway, he laughed it off, like I said, and it was funny in the end. And I couldn't even believe I did it. It was like I was possessed by the flu. I hope you guys are doing well. How was your Halloween? How is the beginning of November? Oh my God, it's November 19th. I just saw on my computer. This is bullshit as far as I'm concerned. What is I just feel my life slipping away. I'm almost a half a century into this thing, my life. And it feels crazy. It feels like I was just 34. And now I am getting close to 48 years old. And, all of us, I've heard people talk about this. We all feel like we lost those COVID years. Those don't count. You should minus a couple of years from your year. So if I'm 47, I'm really only 47. 40. I'm sorry. I'm really only 45 now because of at least 2. I'm going to give it 2 years. It should be 3 years for COVID, in my opinion. But let's say 2 years. So I'm only 45. Let's go with that, even though I am 47. And now I lose 2 more years because of my 2023 sabbatical year. They call it a mental health crisis. I call it a complete, I had a psychotic break. I had a nervous breakdown. You can call it whatever you guys want, but I am telling you, it was all of that and above. All of them and even more. And that lasted most of 2023 and most of really 2024. So until about 2 months ago, I was not myself. So I'm going to just go with I'm 40. So 47 minus 4. Okay, we're going with 44, right? Wait, 47, 43. You know what? I got to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Robin O'Neill got it going on. Getting shit done, still having fun, still going strong. Got it going on. Rockin' till dawn, can't find the phone, leave her alone.
All right, so I wanted to share some things with you. By the recommendation of an old friend of mine named Josh from Dallas, I watched a new documentary with Damien on our movie night. It's so good. Documentaries are my favorite form of filmmaking, and I can't believe I haven't seen this one yet. He recommended it to me knowing that I love American movies so much. So if you did what I told you guys to do, and I hope you did, which I've told you many times to go watch American Movie, the great documentary, my favorite movie of all time, then you'll know what I mean by that. But here, the movie Driver 23, he said, if you love American Movie, you'll definitely love this. Here's the Amazon description. Well, let's do an IMDb description. Let's see which one. Okay. Well, that sucks. How about this one? Driver 23 is a movie about Dan, a delivery driver by day and the lead singer of a Minneapolis-based rock band called Dark Horse. Dan suffers from a myriad of problems that he takes medication for, but none of that seems to slow him down. Okay, that's a pretty good description because it's so bland. Like, that's a very bland. And then I bought the DVD, and with the DVD comes Atlas Moth, which is the second documentary about Dan and his band Dark Horse. And the second documentary is even more about the other guys in Dark Horse. So, well, I take that back. It's not more about them. I mean, it includes more about them. And there are so many moments that are so, well, A, riveting. B, I mean, that's obvious. If you like a movie, you're probably finding some moments riveting. It's like I'm saying nothing here. But for me personally, as an artist, there are things that you see Dan do in order to just play one show to about 3 people. He goes over the top, making these things happen for himself. And really I hate to say it, for almost no reason other than this guy just needs to be on stage performing. But he very rarely does. He almost never does. And he does not have a following. He is not what we would ever call successful in the big definition of that word. But that's exactly why he is so successful to me. And there's this scene, I'll just say, if you do end up watching it, there's this scene of him trying to get his equipment out of the basement of his mom's house. And his seriousness and his belief in the way he's doing it is basically, if you ever wanted to know what it feels like or what it felt like to be me making my big drawings in small rooms and trying to get them out of my house, which they don't fit through any of the door, and all of the insane things I did to make those big drawings happen throughout my entire adult life, and how difficult and impossible, actually, it was to get them out of wherever I lived. And then, in the end, how frankly pointless it was because, I still own all of them, except for maybe 2 or 3 of them. There's nothing that explains my insanity with being an artist better than those scenes of Dan Cleveland trying to get his equipment out of the basement of his mother's house. So there you go. Oh, and also it reminds me a lot of Fitzcarraldo by the Werner Herzog documentary. And I forgot to mention the first documentary was released in 1999 and the other one in 2001. So that's another plus in my opinion because it just is. What else was I going to say? Oh, and I'll put a link in the description for the Driver 23 trailer. I think it's a trailer for both of them. Here's a little clip.
Please, don't tell me that Madonna has a good singing voice. Or that Janet Jackson has that good of a singing voice. My voice is way better than either one of theirs.
The best part about that clip is that you should see it. He cannot think of Madonna's name for a split second, for maybe a full second. He's just like, what's her name? Madonna. All right, so that was Recommendation Corner without me even realizing it was. I do have an anti-recommendation corner. We were at the store. I can't remember what we were looking for, but we were there last week. And I wanted to get some deodorant. While I was there, I thought, I'm almost out of my deodorant. I do not like when deodorant gets really low. It makes me nervous. So I'm like, okay, let's prepare. So I went into the deodorant section with Damien, and I'm looking around. I usually kind of get the same kind all the time. But I thought, let's live a little. Let's see what else they've got to offer. And I am not kidding. I saw seasonal deodorant, and it was called like pumpkin pecan crunch or peanut butter crunch or something. And we smelled, there were 2 different kinds, and we smelled it, and it was the sickest thing ever. And Damien actually goes, okay, imagine you're just dating a guy, and he takes his shirt off, and you smell this on him. as his deodorant when he takes his shirt off. It was so funny. Oh, excuse me. Whoa. All right, so still a little bit sick apparently, but it was the sickest deodorant. So that is my maybe first ever anti-recommendation corner. It was honestly so disgusting. Honey pecan or, I don't know, birthday batter or something like that. Oh, God, so disgusting. Another anti-recommendation corner for you is, some of you may know, I'm a big fan of the classic television show Forensic Files. Well, I believe it was on Peacock. That's a big streaming service that I use a lot because that's where Law and Order SVU is. That's where a lot of the Bravo shows I watch are. Well, anyway, you guys, I thought awesome. They recommended to me, this is just for you. It was a Forensic Files documentary. Okay, how is that not going to be cool? Number one, Peter Thomas is one of the greatest voices of all time. That's the narrator of Forensic Files. Also, he narrated, I've told you guys this before, probably 8 years ago, but he also narrated the life support machine that are in most public places where it walks you through how to give CPR and all of that. I'm sorry that I don't know what those are called, but I mean, can you imagine you've been watching Forensic Files your whole life and you're in this moment of crisis and all of a sudden you're like, okay, we got to use this thing, get it off the wall, let's do this. And then you hear somebody who has narrated the murders and deaths of countless people. I mean, it's just insane. But anyway, all right, hold on a second. I need to take a drink. 1 second. All right, so the point being, this documentary was the worst piece of shit documentary I have ever seen in the history of my life. There was nothing interesting in it. There was nothing revealing in it. It was like maybe one editor and one producer talking about it in the most boring way I've ever seen anybody talk about anything. And they don't even bring up the name Peter Thomas, who is basically the reason that show is so good and everybody knows it. So can you imagine how mad I was? And by the way, I was going to tell you guys another thing. You know how I'm obsessed with Law and Order SVU now? Well, I found out a little bit about the guy who narrates the beginnings of Law and Order, and especially mine, which, remember, how much I was going to do it for you, but I've already practiced it for you before. But it was really cool because he basically just asked, what's his face? I'm telling the worst story ever. Let me find this little mini article I found recently, and I'll do it. This is Reading Corner. Here we go. Let's read. Man, that was the worst story I tried to tell ever. Thank God I can read this to you. So from NBC.com, this is the name of the article. Meet the man behind every Law and Order voice intro and hear his incredible story. And then subtitle, have you ever sat back and wondered who voices Law and Order's iconic intros? Well, by the way, I did, because I'm new to Law and Order, and his voice is amazing. All right, here we go. You know it, you love it, you maybe even have it memorized. As soon as you hear that deep voice say, in the criminal justice system, that can only mean one thing. Law and Order is on, baby. It doesn't say baby, but it seemed like it should. From the original Law and Order to the widely successful spin-offs Law and Order SVU and Law and Order Organized Crime, every episode begins with a haunting intro detailing the crimes the squad covers, each ending with, these are their stories. By the way, my nose is stuffing up again, and my floor keeps creaking. So sorry about that. With hundreds of episodes aired between these franchises, it's safe to say that the Law and Order intro and its iconic dun-dun have left a permanent impression on television pop culture. While the intro is well known and widely beloved, few are aware of who voices the telltale monologue. Read on to pull back the curtain and learn about the mysterious voice behind the fan-favorite intro. Who narrates the Law and Order intros? And then it says, Steve Zirnkilton, ! Man, this is a dramatic article. So, who is the man who's gifted the world with the intro of each Law and Order episode? I love that, because he has gifted the world. I love the way they did that. That would be, and let's go ahead and tell you who wrote this. This is from Jessica White. This is February 8th, 2023. Whoa, I just zoomed up on the article, and I see Detective Olivia Benson and Elliot Stabler, they're about to make out. I did not ever know they made out at all. So that was just a little spoiler alert from me, which sucks. And you. Sorry about that. Okay, so here we go. That would be Steve Zirnkilton, a voice actor and former politician from Maine. While Law & Order is Zirnkilton's claim to fame, he is far more than just the guy who kicks off each episode. He's got quite a resume, and his relationship with Dick Wolf goes further than his voiceover work. And for those of you that don't know, Dick Wolf is the creator and producer and sometimes maybe even director of all of these shows, along with many other shows. Zirnkilton has provided the voiceover for every Law & Order franchise, including Special Victims Unit, Criminal Intent, Los Angeles, and Organized Crime. Outside of his relations to Wolf Entertainment, he also provides voiceover work for numerous TV and film projects, such as the Rugrats movie, Family Guy, and Netflix Murderville. Zirnkilton landed his life-changing L&O gig in a surprising way. A mix of real estate and networking. In an interview with Backstage, Zirnkilton detailed how he managed to become the voice behind Dick Wolf's Law & Order franchise. Here's a quote. Dick Wolf was buying a house up here in Maine, and at the time I had my real estate broker's license and my insurance license. I approached him and asked if I could act as his buyer's representative to make sure that everything would go smoothly, Zirnkilton explained. When the transaction was complete, he said, "What do I owe you?" I immediately passed him a cassette tape, which was my voiceover demo. You guys, how cool is that? This is my dream. I want to do something like this. Well, actually, this is how my career in the art world started, pretty much. So, I mean, and every success I've ever had kind of started like this. So basically, I'm preaching to the choir here, but I would love to, this is cooler because it's Law & Order. Nothing cool about my life. This is very cool. Okay, continuing. Zirnkilton could be the poster child for putting yourself out there and it paying off. A few months later, well, so could I. A few months later, Wolf approached Zirnkilton to do promos for a since-ditched NBC series, Nasty Boys. The Nasty Boys series may have ended quickly, but those two boys were just getting started. And here's the quote again. That lasted about 6 episodes. I figured I'd had my shot, Zirnkilton said. Then I got a call from Mr. Wolf's secretary saying that Mr. Wolf has a show called Law & Order, and he'd like you to play a detective in the show. In the pilot stages of the original Law & Order, Zirnkilton played a detective and was featured in a trailer for the series alongside William H. Macy. That's so crazy to me. Nearly a year went by, and then former NBC president Brandon Tartikoff decided to give it a try, Zirnkilton explained. Mr. Wolf's secretary called me again and said, "Please meet Mr. Wolf at the recording studio. He has something he'd like you to read." And that was the opening. I had no idea if the show would have any legs, but happily it hung around for a while. You could say that again. This article is hilarious. You could say that again. 33 years later, Law & Order is still a widely beloved franchise with Zirnkilton's iconic voice at the helm of each and every episode. Watch Law & Order on NBC Thursdays, 8, 7 Central. Law & Order SVU airs after it at 9, 8 Central, and Law & Order Organized Crime follows at 10, 9 Central. I did not know this, by the way. I've never watched like the new ones or live or anything like that. Stream all next day on Peacock. How cool is that story, you guys? Now, does everybody like that as much as me? I love the idea of this guy. He was just doing real estate in Maine and suddenly has this opportunity. He's meeting with somebody he knows could do something for him in the field. Like a lot of times that stuff is annoying, that sort of networking, but there are certain times when, it kind of goes back to Dan Cleveland in Driver 23 documentary and American Movie. Like there are times when you know you have to put yourself out there. And if you believe in yourself, which you should, it's an incredible, it's just what you have to do. Things are usually not going to happen unless you do something like that. There are certain kinds of networking that make me feel really cringy, and there are others that are just awesome and kind of natural. And Zirnkilton's is really natural. Now, if you have never watched Law & Order, go ahead and pull up Law & Order. I only know the SVU one. Law & Order SVU intro, and you'll hear how awesome his voice is. I don't know if I'm really allowed to play it. I would like to, but I'm not going to risk it. So anyway, that is I guess, is that our reading for this week? I am feeling sick still, so I might keep it short. Let me hit pause. Let me go to the bathroom and think about this. I've decided to keep talking because I remembered another Law and Order SVU moment. Can you guys tell I'm obsessed? Anyway, that really stuck with me and really affected me and actually made me cry. There was this moment. I'm going to play this.
The people that have made me feel the worst were always my best friends.
And then after that, I didn't record it, but Dr. Wong, the forensic psychiatrist who works with the detectives, said that he said something about feelings and being, young girls are often taught to keep their feelings to themselves and on and on and on. And then even Detective Elliot Stabler said feelings got to come out sometime. And between Olivia's statement about her friends and Detective Stabler's statement about feelings got to come out sometime, I was crying and I was relating and I was very upset because the truth is, believe it or not, I seem like I tell a lot of my feelings, but I think the hardest feelings until kind of recently-ish, I didn't until I met Damien. I'll say that. I kept all of my kind of most important, strongest, most troubling, most difficult, most challenging feelings to myself. Or I would tell certain people very privately, but it was never like addressing the person who I needed to speak to. I was very fearful of that because I was naturally always a people pleaser. I know I've talked to you guys about this before, but anyway, when I heard her say this, I was just kind of wondering. I mean, I've been searching high and low for books on friendships, for books on when friendships end. Oh, let me tell you another thing. One book that did help me about friendship, weirdly, it doesn't seem like it's about friendship, but Nedra Glover Tawwab's book, Set Boundaries, Find Peace, A Guide to Reclaiming Yourself, was a book that really, really helped me when it came to understanding why certain friendships had to go away from me and why it's okay. And because, I was never good at setting boundaries until I got into a 12-step program, and that was, quite a long time ago now, but that was Al-Anon, which I've got to tell you guys about my discoveries about Al-Anon now. Now, I've talked to you guys endlessly about how Al-Anon helped me because I have a lot of alcoholics in my life or had a lot of alcoholics in my life. And whether they're drinking or not, alcoholics' behavior tend to affect, you. Well, I actually still have plenty of, sober alcoholics in my life and sober addicts in my life. And I'm grateful for that. I think that that's fine. We all have our things. And I happen to really understand that mindset, being extremely obsessive and having OCD and anxiety disorder and a lot of things that I have and experience make me really very sympathetic towards an alcoholic, whether they're drinking or not, or an addict, whether they're using or not. So anyway, the point being, I've gone through a lot with friendships throughout my entire life, and I've admitted it was more on Robin's Gate, the interim podcast that I did while I was not doing well emotionally, but I spoke very openly about my friendships and the pain that they've caused me. And a lot of them being the closest friendships in my life. I also just want to be clear that I never thought that I was necessarily a great friend in some ways as well. I think in other ways I was, but I failed in a lot of ways, I've failed in so many ways relationship-wise. And I think until you can accept that, I love admitting failure, by the way. I think the chance to apologize for my mistakes is a gift. And I try to apologize for my mistakes as often as possible. But I used to try even when it was the other person's fault. I used to be very willing to throw myself under the bus just to keep friendships or relationships intact. because I knew the other person wasn't going to apologize, you know? And so I was like, well, somebody's got to solve this. And I was always willing to do that. I'm not as much, maybe thanks to the Nedra Glover Tawwab book and really practicing my boundaries. I'm now a very boundaried person, and I'm not going to say things I don't mean anymore, you know? I'm only going to speak the truth, even if it's hard for me to say and hard for the other person. But anyway, when Detective Olivia Benson said what she said about her friend, let's hear it again. I got to hear it again because I kind of forget how she worded it.
The people that have made me feel the worst were always my best friends.
Okay, A. Doesn't Mariska, is that how you say it? Mariska Hargitay have a beautiful voice. It's very strong, it's sweet, it's tender. Yeah, and I would say, well, I mean, we all understand that. The people who cause us the most pain are always the ones closest to us, and that's just a fact of life. If it's not a fact of your life, then you're incredibly lucky, but I also think you're so rare. There is a song by the person I just happen to be married to, Damien Jurado, everybody. That's Jurado. I highly recommend his music, if that's not clear. Most of you already listened to it, but the song that this makes me think of is The Loneliest Place. I think that's the name. Let me check that. Okay, it has two names. Male Customer Number 1, and that is on the Monster Who Hated Pennsylvania album, and then The Loneliest Place. And the place I'm going to put a link, but just know you should listen to Live at Landlocked. Do a YouTube search, Damien Jurado, The Loneliest Place, Live at Landlocked. And this song, and this is saying a lot coming from me, it's one of the saddest and most relatable songs ever for me. And the reason that's saying a lot, what I mean by that is that, you know, I'm known to love, amongst the people who know me, I love sad songs so much, and Damien happens to be a master at them. But, you know, and growing up, my dad would always like kind of joke and laugh because he would be like, yep, Robin, I heard you listening to those dirges upstairs again. Because everything I ever listened to sounded like a dirge. And that's always struck me as so funny because it's true. So anyway, if you listen to that song, that kind of tells that same story that I'm kind of talking about. But I guess that's it. This isn't exactly revelatory in any way other than I guess I just want to say it out loud today or something, or tell you guys, now that I'm back on me reading stuff, that it's something I've been struggling with a lot. And it's something, I mean, I talked to my therapist about it recently, where I had to kind of realize recently that it might just be something I'll never be good at. And to say that about friendships is a devastating thing. And I've admitted it to those people who I'm friends with now, a lot of people anyway, like it's just not my strong suit. And it's not like it's because I hate friends or I don't like people and I don't like being nice to my friends. It's nothing, it's not like, it's very complex. I'll just say this, it has a lot of psychological history and complexity to it with me. There's a lot of really good reasons. If you want to say good reasons, I have a lot of reasons that if I had time and energy and if it was safe, I would tell any of you about it and you would all go, oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense. It's one of those things, but it's devastating to me all the time. And it makes me embarrassed, very embarrassed. Yeah, there's so much guilt and there's just so much pain surrounding it. And I think you get the idea. This is something I used to say a lot on the old podcast or in the early days of the podcast. And I just want to take a moment to say it again, which is this. If you have something nice to say about somebody, if you're sitting around thinking about somebody you know, or even if you barely know them, but you know how to get a hold of them through social media or something, or their website, why don't you? And I'm saying it because it's something I've believed in my whole life. Like, this is why I've always sent fan letters to people and that kind of thing. And I'm a big mail person. Like, I love sending friends and family greeting cards and letters and postcards. And I'm a big compliment giver. And I will say that this week I've been gifted, blessed, whatever you want to call it, with a lot of really nice, out of the blue messages from people, some of whom I know, some of whom I do not, with the nicest things to say about me. And I can only believe that these are like prayers answered for me, because I am struggling a lot with all sorts of things, as always, as we all are. And I, frankly, needed these exact words this week. And my belief is that if you have that instinct, that's a message from something bigger than you, and that's telling you to tell that person. If you know what I mean? Because that's exactly what's happened to me this week. And these were really, anyway, I think my point is made. And if any of you happen to be listening, and you have sent me something, well, I've responded to these people so far, but I just want you to know that it means a lot to me when you guys say nice things to me or tell me how the podcast has meant something to you, or my drawings. It's mainly the podcast, though, that has kind of helped people through things. But my point is, don't keep kind words that you could easily say to somebody to yourself. It doesn't make any sense to me. If you say something, I mean, if you feel something, say something, especially if it's a compliment or a kind word, or letting somebody know that they mean something to you. I mean, in some ways this sounds obvious, but in other ways I think people really need to hear it. Because I think people need to hear good things right now. So, and always. So that's my thought for right now. I just remembered to include that because I recorded it the other day for you guys. I'm going back. I think I'm going to be going back to just recording throughout my day to you guys, and then compiling a podcast, collaging a podcast together, because A, it makes it easier for me. It's much more likely that I'll have things to say in that way, rather than like sitting down at my desk recording a podcast. Like, it's just not fun for me really to do it that way as much anymore. And also because I'm feeling, good. I'm doing other things now. I'm making my postcard drawings. Speaking of which, I have been having so much fun doing these. What a wonderful opportunity everybody's giving me to make drawings for people and give them. I realize people are paying for their subscriptions in order to get them, so there's a little bit of exchange going on. But this has been very good for me. I could go on and on and on. I won't. But anyway, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, on Substack, you can check out my Substack. I'll put a link in the description, or just type in Robin O'Neill and you'll find me. But anybody who's a paid subscriber, I was going to do it just for a week, and then I had so much fun and it brought me back to my studio. So I wanted to continue that for anybody who has a paid subscription, yearly, annually, foundation member, or monthly. I make you a postcard. As long as you give me your address, which you can do right when you sign up, I will make you a postcard drawing. And, they're a part of kind of my Cloud Maker series, along with being a part of my stationery, like hotel stationery series that I've been doing for years. But I just decided to give them away, or, for $5 a month, give them to you guys. And it has been so much fun. It's also churning a lot of ideas out for me and making me sort of kind of just allowing me to be back in my art making brain again. And, listening to nonstop TV, SVU all the time, and trying new things, doing some old things. There's no telling what anyone's going to get. I hope that's okay. I've only had one person ask for something specific, and that was okay. When you want a sweatsuit guy, you need to tell me, because I'm not that likely to do the sweatsuit guys all that often. Well, that's not true. I kind of like to do them occasionally. So I would say I've done only maybe 5% sweatsuit guys, and everybody else has gotten other things that are a little bit more of me now. But it's just the greatest thing. So check that out. And I'm going to be now doing, we'll see what happens, but I'm only going to do the Substack every other week. I was thinking I might do Substack 1 week, Substack post 1 week, and then me reading stuff, podcast the other week, and go back and forth. Just because, unfortunately, I've had to really assess my commitments and think about my mental health and what I can handle. And I got very overwhelmed, which was a good feeling because so many people wanted the postcard drawings. But it also it made me start to act like my old self a little bit, and that's in a bad way. So I might have to pull back a bit on something, and I'm not sure how to do that. So if you see me gone on the podcast 1 week or gone on Substack like I was this week, you'll know why. Anyway, this is boring. Let's get out of here. All right, I had a really wonderful, beautiful, touching reminder from a listener of something I used to do every podcast, and I haven't done it in a while. What it is I used to kick out the bigots and all the other horrible people who might exist, and I think it's high time we got into that practice again, babies. So, if you happen to be a bigot who has a problem with another group of people, say you're anti-trans, or you're an anti-Semite, or you think gay people need to go to church more, or anything like that, or, very importantly, if you're a racist little bitch, racist, bigots, or child molesters, this ain't the podcast for you, so get the fuck out of here. Thank you, but no thank you. We don't need you. And to the rest of you, all are welcome here. All are my friends. I love keeping you company, and I love sharing life with you. Notice I said sharing life with you, not sharing my life. I share my life, but you guys also share your life with me. And to anybody new here on the podcast, people do share their life with me. I have a lot of exchanges with these people. We're going to be maybe doing a convention one day. It will be awesome. It'll be at an IHOP in the Midwest. Please be mindful of your needs tonight, your desires, your limits, your boundaries. In other words, I want you to take good care of yourselves. We are not here, you know what I've realized? We're not here to beat ourselves up every day. We're not here to accomplish things. We're here to love each other, and each other includes our own selves. Well, we can accomplish things, don't get me wrong. Let me go back. We are just not here to beat ourselves up. I didn't know that until kind of recently. We're not here to be hard on ourselves and others. We're here to love each other and be easy on each other. I mean, again, unless you're a racist, bigot, or child molester. I am going to go make baked chicken that I marinated with mashed potatoes, instant, because I'm cheating, and broccoli that I already steamed last night. I don't know what else I'll do. I know I'll definitely watch some Law & Order SVU. What are you guys about to do? Tell me about it. Enjoy it. Keep dying. Keep writing it down. That's C.K. Williams. And I'm Robin O'Neill. I sincerely love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. And good night.